I'm going to do a podcast for 2025, and I wanted to thank all of you for being listeners of my podcast last year in 2024. And I thought I'd like to not so much do a recap of what happened in 2024, because we all lived through it. Biden and his senility and all that. What I wanted to talk about on this podcast is kind of some things we should be observing or paying attention to for 2025. So first of all, we got a new president. Happens every 4 or 8 years. And it's a good thing because we got Trump. He's not senile. Seems to have a pretty good grasp of what's going on with the economy and the world in general. Which is good because the president's job is to be more worried about external affairs than internal affairs. And how the country is doing internally is more up to Congress and the Senate. But because of the 16th Amendment, they have been able to avoid doing their job, which is fine. It's been going on for years, so whatever. So with what's going on in the world externally, which are things that have to do with the President of the United States, would be the issue in Israel with Palestine, the issue in Ukraine and Russia, and probably the Houthis and everything else that's going on in the world. And I don't know if Trump is just talking about Greenland and Canada just to get people to look over there while he tries to formulate his plan, because he is not the president yet, because he hasn't been sworn in. So there's, a week or whatever left. And I think it gives the media something to chew on and flip out about and cry about and go, oh my God, he's going to take over Canada. But the important things are that bother me is mainly America and Americans spending all our hard-earned tax dollars in a very economic, tumultuous time on Ukraine, who I don't really have a dog in that fight, don't really care, and Israel and Palestine. Now, I'm pretty sure Ukraine and Russia deal will not escalate to nuclear war, because Putin has said, I don't want to go to nuclear war, because he's not insane. He's had plenty of time since they invented the nuclear bomb to blow us off the map. And we have had plenty of time to blow them off the map. So that is not the trajectory of that military operation. It's dragging on so long because we won't stop giving Ukraine money and forcing them to come to the table and go, okay, we're broke and we're all dying and it's winter. How can we work this out? Because Putin has presented many peace plans throughout this whole military operation. I know if you're listening to the media, then you think it's all Putin's fault and bad, but it's not. It's not that simple, just like everything in life, even your own personal finances in your home. It's always a little more complicated than just some, high school kid going, well, what you should do is work harder or whatever, right? So it's more complicated. Now with Israel and Palestine, that's genocide. Call it whatever you want. There's a legal definition of genocide, and they are right there up against that. And I think they crossed it over a year ago. But anyway. But either way, what the fuck do I care here in America when we have homelessness, the destruction of many cities? I was just listening to Joe Rogan with Mel Gibson talking about San Francisco, and it's just a shame to see that. We got veterans that don't have homes. They're not getting medical care. They're not getting treatment. We have an infrastructure that's basically third world-ish now. So we got plenty of shit to focus on here in America. And my thought is not to give a flying fuck about the rest of the world. Because they're not bombing us. You know, it's not like even with the border being wide open, so far they haven't brought in tanks and started shooting at us. So it's not a war just yet for us here in America. Now, is it a war in Palestine and Israel? Sure. I had nothing to do with it. I don't give a fuck. And if you study the history, I mean going back more than a week or two, or even a year, or even Netanyahu becoming president or whatever he is. I mean, if you go back to the Bible, this needs to be worked out by them. We did not even exist when they started having problems with their neighbors. So I'm not going to go down that road. I did in another podcast where I talked about, Israel and the chosen people and blah, blah, blah. But I'm not a fan of that. I believe in a higher power. I believe in God. And if Jews or Israel were ordained to be the chosen people, well, I didn't get that memo, and I don't really know what that means, chosen. Were they chosen to be the CEO, or just chosen to be the janitor of the company? Were they chosen to crucify their Messiah? Maybe. Were they chosen to kill their Messiah 2,000 years ago? Maybe. I don't know. So I'm not going to get into that as far as my decision-making paradigm. I think what they're doing is wrong. I think diplomacy is always better than bombs. But I'm just an American. As far as Russia and Ukraine, they will work it all out. Russia has always tried to not be fucking assholes, even when they were the Soviet Union, which they are not anymore. So if you're going to look back into history and think, well, they were communists. Yes, they were. Keyword, were. So we need to keep an eye on all this because, one, it's costing us a lot of money. It could have a massive effect on America if somebody starts shooting out, nuclear bombs and stuff. So we're going to keep an eye on it. Nothing you and I can do about it. I'm sorry. Nothing you and I, as Americans, can do about it because we are not in charge anymore of any of that shit. All right? We're just along for the ride. We're the audience that claps and votes. That's about it. Now, as far as the economy, that kind of overlaps into all these wars and shit because you got Russia, and China working on this BRICS thing, which they've been doing for a long time. I think BRICS has been going on 15 years or something, so it's not like a new thing. Russia and China aren't trying to destroy the US dollar. We're doing a pretty good job doing that ourselves. So you got to keep an eye on that because they're going to reevaluate the currency. They're not trying to create a currency of their own like a BRICS buck or anything like that. What they're doing is saying, well, we're just going to kind of come up with a way to evaluate the worth of your currency. So pesos in Mexico have been up and down for years since, I lived here. We used to go to Mexico all the time, and it was worth a penny, and then it was worth 90 cents, and it was worth a quarter. I don't know. I don't keep track of it. But let's just say that the peso is worth 25 cents. So if you want to buy something in America, you got to convert your peso into dollars. So every 4 peso gives you $1. So if you want to buy a $100 TV in America, then you're going to pay 400 pesos. Still a $100 TV. So this is what's going to happen. Because I was watching a podcast by Lynette Zhang, and she was talking about how in 1900s, if you went shopping and you spent $1, in today's dollars, that same amount of food would cost you $400. $400. So basically, our dollar is worth about 4 cents, is what they're saying. And they've been saying it. They just say it a little nicer sounding. Well, you know, inflation and 3%, 4%, 0%, blah, blah, blah. The reality is, if you go back in time and take $1 and figure out what you could buy with that, that would cost you $400 today. That's just fucking math. So, they in the BRICS are just going to come up with something that makes sense to where if we want to buy wheat from somebody or oil from Russia or China or TVs from China, they're going to say, fine, we'll take your dollars. You want a $1,000 TV, then it's going to cost you 1,000 divided by 4 cents. So your dollar's not going to buy it. It's not going to take $1,000. It's going to take a lot more than that. In fact, let's just look that up while I'm here, because I suck so fucking badly at math. So we got $1,000 TV, and we divide that by 0.03. Then that TV is going to cost you $33,333 and 3333. So basically, your new TV for 2025, if they reevaluate everything, which they're going to do because they're already like over 50% of the worldwide GDP. So they're all coming around to that. And it doesn't matter if we like it or buy onto it or not. It's just China's going to say, well, we're not going to shut down trade with you, but it's going to cost you $33,000 to buy that TV. And then you got, tariffs on top of that even, but that's not going to affect China. They're going to sell that TV for $1,000. Trump says, well, we're going to tariff that or charge 100%, then that's now a $2,000 TV. China doesn't, get that $2,000. They get $1,000. And then you and I, when we buy that TV from whoever imported that, they paid the government $2,000. So now you're paying $2,000 for that TV. Or $66,000 actually. So none of this is going to help because we're kind of in a little bit of a financial trick bag here. So we're kind of fucked, and that's okay, As Americans, we've been fucked for a long time. So for 2025, you're going to want to keep an eye on the economy. You're going to want to keep an eye on your economy and finances. And when all of a sudden your $10 an hour job becomes a $3,000 an hour job or whatever that comes to, well, let's just fucking do the math again. Let's hit clear on this. You make $15 an hour. Divide that by 0.03. Well, you're going to need to make $500 an hour. So if they try to fix it to where we can buy bread and TVs, you're going to be making $500 an hour. Well, that's great, I guess, but it's going to drive the cost of everything up on our side of the border. So I don't know how they'll work it out, and it's really none of my problems. You know, I'll do whatever, and I'll work, and I'll get my paycheck, and I'll go buy food. But Lynette Zhang was showing her listeners a $100 trillion Zimbabwe bill. So basically you could say, wow, she's got $100 trillion. No, but because it took 10 of those to buy a loaf of bread. So it was just a piece of paper. What it said on it was irrelevant. You go and buy a loaf of bread and some groceries, it's $600 trillion. It's like, here you go. That's called inflation. But unfortunately, things didn't keep up that way. So you were still only making less money and making it harder to make ends meet, to where in the Weimar Republic, you had to take wheelbarrows of money to go buy groceries. And they said during that time the most valuable thing in that wheelbarrow was the wheelbarrow itself, because the paper dollars weren't worth shit. Now, I'm not an economist. I don't know how that all works on one side of the fence or the other. But the reality is, if China says, well, this is what we're going to need in dollars, then for Walmart to buy them TVs, they're going to pay $30,000 a piece for them in American dollars. So then we will convert that into their money by using gold and all this stuff. So I think gold and silver are going to become quite valuable. Not in American dollars, then they'll be astronomically infeasible to even buy. But, you know, if they say a dollar is now worth, an ounce of gold is worth $1,000, but they revalue our money, that's $300,000, $400,000. You know, so it's fucked up. I don't get it. And I'm sure a lot of you maybe do in the audience. But I think any straight thinking person would go, that's not going to be good, really. However it works out, always remember the sum total of the equation does not have us in it. We are not part of their math at all. We are not at the table. We're not at the menu, on the menu. We're not even the shim holding the table from rocking. We are nothing to these politicians and these deep state people. So it's not going to really matter how you or I think about it. You just need to know that it's going to storm. Will it be a Category 4 or a Category 1 or a Category 5 when it hits landfall? Don't know. But if you're smart, you'll be ready. And if you can't get out of the way, you'll batten down the hatches, you'll have some food, you'll have your electricity, you'll have your, whatever, sandbags everywhere, and hopefully you will survive it. Or you will drive up the hill somewhere, if you can. So this is the hurricane coming to our economy. And they're not talking about it, and they're blowing smoke up our butts. It's just hopium. Feels good, gets you high, but it's not going to be good. Now, on an upside, it seems like America is starting to wake up to a lot of the bullshit that has been shoveled down our throat in the form of the food pyramid for 50, 60 years. And now people are waking up and going, wait a minute, carbs are bad? Meat and fat is good? Well, fuck, I didn't know that. Well, of course you didn't, because you're not a doctor from the 1700s that knew that. Medical journals have been saying that there's no such thing as an essential carbohydrate. But they twisted it all around, just like everything else. So health-wise, we're starting to get better information from people like Callie and Casey Means, Dr. Ken Berry, Dr. Berg, Joe Rogan show. Everywhere you look, there's now people, Ted Kennedy, talking about the dangers of not just vaccines, but actually the way we eat following the food pyramid and the federal government. Now, I quit eating grains and plant-based food and carbohydrates years ago, and I feel great. And I'm healthy, and I got a lot of energy, and I'm 70 years old, and I still take 0 medication. I don't even take aspirin. A while back, I started coughing and feeling bad, like I was getting the flu, not the fucking COVID, the flu. I started eating Zicam and taking some stuff, when I sleep, like NyQuil and stuff. And, within a day and a half, it was gone, just like every other flu season I've ever experienced. So people now, because of the COVID and all of that, are starting to look around and going, things are not what they're saying. It's a rainy day and they're telling me the sun is shining. I'm kind of dumb as an American these days because I watch the media and the news, but I'm not that fucking dumb. So we as a species of people are starting to wake up and realizing that things are not as they seem. So in the health department, I think that'll be a good thing for 2025 and beyond, because people are slowly realizing that what we've been told for 50, 60 years has been misinformation, partially false, to say it the way Facebook would. So what's happening is we're going to be getting healthier, but our economy is going to get really bad. Politicians are not going to fight to change the bad things because, look at your household. I don't know about you, but if my wife was on a campaign mode to buy a brand new Ford Raptor, I'm going to sit there and go, I'm going to vote for that shit. Yeah. But if she's like, no, we can't buy that. In fact, we need to sell some of our toys and get our debt paid off because we'll be better off. I can see the logic in it. I'm just not going to fucking like it. I want a new Raptor. And that's what politicians do. They cater and wordsmith things around to where you want them to spend more of the city's money. But we forget that the city don't have any money. It's your money. It's tax money. So when they go, well, we're going to build a new swimming pool. Great. Kids love swimming pools. That's nice. They forget to tell you that it's a grant, which means they have to match half of it. So that $2 million swimming pool is going to cost the city $1 million. Oh, don't worry, it's a grant. And most people go, oh, okay. That's like me pointing a gun at your face and say, don't worry, it's not loaded. Maybe it is. So politics are going to continue to slide in the direction they have for 100 years. They're going to continue to kick the can down the road. Unfortunately, that road is leading to a very, very bad neighborhood. And we don't want to be there when they start kicking the can down that road, because at the other side of that neighborhood is a fucking cliff. So there's that. So politically, things may be better for, a new president and all that. We don't know. We might be in more serious trouble with wars than we have been for the last 20 years just because of Afghanistan and stuff. No, this could be even worser. We weaponized the dollar, which pissed off Russia, and China and the rest of the world are looking at it going, why would I invest in U.S. bonds when they could just seize that money? That $600 billion that belonged to Russia that was seized by Europe, that was their slush fund for converting rubles into dollars, and then they could buy things with dollars and all of that. And so it was just like Mexico, or that was their savings account. So Mexico's got $1 billion in that account, and that way when they need to buy something from America, they just write a check on that account. Well, we seized that account. We weaponized that money. And so, smart people went, well, okay, fuck you. and they changed their direction and path and their course and their agenda and everything. That was not Russia trying to destroy our dollar. That was America trying to turn the ruble into rubble. And they took that as a threat that it is, and they corrected it. And they're doing good. So we got all of that to look forward to in 2025 and figure out just what the fuck's going to happen. Politically speaking and economically speaking, here in America, I don't have a lot of faith that it's going to get better. But hopefully it doesn't get worse. But just by reading the writing on the wall, it's going to get worse for you and I because we're not at the table. We don't get a vote. Well, we get to vote, but shut the fuck up. And then health-wise, I think we might all do good. Now, a lot of people will say, well, it's really expensive to do carnivore diet. Not really. I figure if I get enough calories in one day out of a pound of hamburger, which is, 2,000-3,000, calories. If I bought 665 pounds of hamburger for the year, that's still cheaper than buying organic vegetables and potato chips and all that shit. Because really I'd be buying like one of them big things at Walmart of hamburger, real high fat, the cheap ones that are full of fat and not real lean, because I don't like lean meat. I like fat, because that's why I'm carnivore, for fat. So I think they're $15 if I buy, 7, say, each week. That's $70. Well, I spend more than that, before I switched diet. So it's not the end all of the world in your finances if you switch to carnivore. Now, if you're going to say, well, I'm switching to hamburgers, but I like, whole grain buns and French fries and Coca-Cola. Well, first of all, then you're not on a low carb diet. You're fucked. And it's expensive. I can go to McDonald's and get 2 McDoubles for $5. That's 900 calories almost if I just eat the meat and throw the bun away. Now, if I make that a meal and I get the French fries and the Coke and everything like that, and it's $10-12, I'm paying a lot of money for some calories. Junk calories. So all in all, things are good and they're bad. It's a new year, so I'm going to try to be optimistic. But I'm not a pessimist. I'm more of a cynic than pessimistic. I don't run around saying the sky is falling, but I don't run around saying that the sky can't fall. It could. So that's kind of being cynical. I believe pretty much half of what I see with my own eyes and none of what I hear with my ears. And that goes for media and everything. Podcasts, everything. You have to filter it out. So I'm very cynical as I look at things. And I try to get it worked out in my mind to where I'm not a downer or always blue or thinking the worst. But also, I'm not running around listening to MSN and going, everything is fucking awesome. Oh my God, Trump won. We're all going to die. Oh goody, a Democrat won. We're all going to live. I'm not that person. I don't care if they're Democrat or Republican. I think Tulsi Gabbard is a great person, and so is RFK Kennedy. And I probably would have voted for Tulsi Gabbard. I think I kind of did in one of the primaries because that was the thing to do. And I thought, she is really smart. So it's not a party thing. I don't put party above principles. But that's all I can say for 2025. So I just wanted to thank everybody for tuning in last year. I hope you'll continue to tune in. I'm not going to be doing as many podcasts, but the ones I do will be on Podbean, PrepperGuy.podbean.com. And all my DIY things will still be on YouTube. So thank you guys again. I hope you got something out of this. Leave a comment if you have a question or anything like that. I'm not a lecturing teacher or professor when it comes to politics or economy or current events. I just look at it and go, this is what I see. And there's people out there that do really good podcasts, and they got the comedy video running in the background with somebody going, what? And shit like that, jump cuts and stuff. That's not me. I'm the kind of guy that goes, I'm old enough to see that things could be going sideways. Take a look for yourself, because it's going to be contingent on you and how you live in the things that you require as a father or a mother to make sure everything is good for you. And so that's how I'm looking at it this year. I'm just looking forward, going, keep an eye out. There's no answers in this podcast. There's just questions that you should be asking yourself. So I love you guys. Hope you have a great new year, and we'll be talking again. Bye-bye.